a little bit about what you do.
So my name is Candace. I own a nonprofit, and then I also own a boutique entertainment management company. So entertainment for trade shows, conventions, special events, private events, a lot of fundraisers. And I actually live between two places. One of my corporations is filed in Las Vegas, and the other corporation is filed in Orange County, California. So I bounce back and forth.
You have a little bit of travel.
A little bit.
So knowing what I know about you, there have been many instances throughout your life that have kind of shaped how you are as an adult and, brought you to where you are now. Tell us a little bit about kind of what got you to where you are.
Okay. So, fun fact about me, most people don't know that I'm the oldest of 10. So I'm the oldest of 10 siblings. And I'm the oldest because my parents had me when they were really young. So my mom was 15, 16 when she got pregnant. My dad was 16, 17. So at my mom's high school graduation, I was sitting in the stands. I was already 2 years old. And so I had a lot of older friends as a young child because I hung out with my mom and her friends. And having young parents, of course, they're not going to stay together. So divorce was inevitable. I think they tried. They were married for maybe a year or two once my mom could legally get married. And my dad was in the Marines, so we lived on base housing, and I do remember that much. But what I remember most from my childhood, which really shaped me as an adult, would be living on base housing. I want to say that my dad was coming back from overseas, and him and my mom got into a really big fight. And I remember him slamming her head into a cupboard. And I remember thinking at that point in life, well, number one, I'm a fighter. So I might have only been maybe 3, but I jumped to my mom's defense. And I was only so tall, so I could only reach his butt. So I physically bit my dad's butt, really hard to try to protect my mom. And I don't really remember much after that. Memory just blanked out. I don't remember anything at all. But I do remember in that moment of having to feel like a protector, I feel like I grew up really fast. From that point forward, it was always are you okay? Do you need my help with anything? And so being the oldest of 10, that just got stronger and stronger over time because there was always someone to take care of. I always was babysitting. I always had a younger sibling.
Take on a little bit of a mother role with your siblings to help out.
Absolutely. And so that made me grow up really quick. Even at 2, 3, and seeing certain things, I learned really young, maybe not even 10, that my parents were just people. It was really easy for me to forgive the things that I had seen growing up or forgive certain moments because I realized really young, my parents are just people. They're just learning. They're just getting their life together. And I just didn't have that expectation that you would maybe normally put on parents. So my mom is still one of my best friends to this day. We have more of a friendship relationship. And, a lot of my other siblings are always saying, you grew up really fast. You grew up really fast. And it's true, and so I think that affected everything moving forward, why I'm able to spearhead businesses, why I feel confident making decisions, why I feel confident, doing things alone, why I feel confident having hard conversations and just these things of that aren't necessarily easy. I just kind of take them head on and deal with them because that's what was ingrained in me as a child. And so I always had that kind of mentality of be harder, do better, move forward. And then my little brother, oldest of 10, so he was the youngest, I'm the oldest. When he was born, I think I was 21. And when he was 2, I was maybe 23, he passed away. So now my brother's drowned, he's dead, which is a grief that I have to deal with. And now I'm watching all my other siblings and my mom, who I helped raise, deal with their grief. And it really changed my outlook because I became such a competitive person, from competitive dancing and cheer or doing auditions, moving to Vegas and doing the whole go-go auditions and stuff was really competitive. Starting businesses, just everything was so competitive, and I was so gung-ho on moving forward, being better, trying harder, doing better, that was my outlook, that was my life. And then when Brave died, seeing my siblings not want to go to school and have to stop, and like literally seeing my mom's life like stop, you know, like their grief was hard. So that changed my perspective, and maybe it's okay to slow down. Maybe it's okay to take things in the slow lane, to take things one day at a time, to take things as they come. There's nothing wrong with that. And that was a really big shift for me mentally, because I was such a go-getter and I was so outgoing. It's kind of hard for you to see the flip side of the coin when you're so gung-ho on one side of the coin, right? So that was for me a really big pivotal moment in my view set of how things should be done, which I think allowed me to be able to start the nonprofit for drowning prevention, because I was able to slow down. I was able to really learn about things that I hadn't learned about before, that I maybe wasn't good at. Nonprofits, I didn't know anything about them. And then also to be able to slow down, to be patient with people while I was training people. Because when you're trying to get people to do things for a nonprofit and it's free, you have to have a lot of patience. Like, you really have to slow your roll, explain things, you know, understand that people need to understand your mission in order to want to help you for like free, to volunteer. And so that was just really humbling for me, to have to share my story, to really have to slow my pace down, to have to talk about things that made me uncomfortable or made me sad with other people all the time. And so I don't think if I had had that shift in perspective when he passed away, I think that would have been a lot harder for me to deal with.
Yeah.
Because I would have
been a lot more grief, and you're able to kind of use this for good now.
Right. And really sit with it and kind of focus on it, because when you're slow, when you're thinking about things, when you do take the time to really just be in the moment and not be go, 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 then you're able to sit with your thoughts and you're able to reflect with yourself. And that self-reflection kind of changed everything for me. So I really changed when my brother died drastically. And my husband at the time, he could not understand it. Like, he would just constantly be like, "You're different, you changed, you don't talk to me, it's not the same." And I was like, duh, you know, but you're married and that's your spouse, so you're like, oh, okay, let me try. But at my core, I had changed so drastically, there was no turning back. I was not who he wanted me to be anymore. I just wasn't that person. And I couldn't undo the things that I had learned. Like, the change was a heart. It was like those epiphanies when you kind of have that aha moment, your come to Jesus moment, your whatever you want to call it moment, and you're like, damn, that altered my reality greatly. That was that for me. And he really couldn't understand that. So I think he took it personal as my husband, kind of like, you changed, you did things different. But it wasn't personal to him. It was a personal growth story, and it's what I was meant to do. But ultimately, that understanding wasn't there. So we ended up going through a divorce. And the divorce, I mean, of course, my brother dying put me in a really great depression. Probably the biggest grief that I had ever felt, right? It changed me at my core. But it was a death. It was something that like had not been done to me specifically, like intentionally. Whereas I felt like when my ex left me, I felt like he knew about my abandonment issues. He knew about my childhood wounds. He knew about these things, he chose to still leave me in a way that he knew it would hurt. You know, now, yes, it brought up things that I had to deal with. It made me deal with my codependency. It made me deal with my neglect issues. It made me deal with, you know, always feeling alone, feeling like I had to do things on my own, you know, be the one that took charge. It made me deal with all that, but it took years to really sit with those thoughts after the divorce and be okay with it. Now I'm to a point where I'm like, thank God he left. And I mean it, because I would have never left.
You can be yourself now.
And we would have been miserable together. We were not meant to be together.
Now, what are you doing now that helps you find peace in all of this? Like, what is it for you that you throw yourself into, or you do for yourself, that is for you to center and ground you?
So since then, it's really been the healing journey, which for me is educating myself. So at first, I really had to study, like, what is codependency? What are the things that I'm dealing with? What are those things that I've been ignoring or maybe subconsciously putting back? And the more that you want to deal with it, the more gets like shed to light or shown to light, whatever you want to call it. So for me, it was a process to heal. It was a process. It took a really long time, but it was just a day by day thing. And I enjoyed that because I was learning along the way. It wasn't overwhelming where it was like all at once, you know, it wasn't a pivotal moment like when my brother died, but slowly but surely over the years, learning about my traumas, learning about my triggers, really sitting with those thoughts of like, why do I get so, attached or hurt when someone says this or does this? Okay, it goes back to here and I never really healed it. And I put this, I imposed, the feeling that I was feeling on every single person that ever did anything similar. And I, would kind of categorize people as these very generic things, where I kind of had to realize through my healing that things are not black and white. There literally are 50 shades of gray. And the healing journey, being willing to learn those things, being open-minded, to question my thoughts, my feelings, my beliefs, that was honestly probably the best thing I could have ever done for my mind, my heart, and my physical body. I started to even heal physically when I started to address the things, internally that I needed to deal with.
What do you plan to do now that you're in a better place? Is there like an ultimate goal or something that you want to put out into the world to kind of help people?
I feel like I don't have like an ultimate goal anymore, because that was the beauty of being humbled by my brother's death, was that I have very little control in what really happens in this world. So I live every day, with certain plans, aspirations, motivations, but if that doesn't happen, I'm not crushed by expectations not being met. I don't really have the set expectations of this is going to happen in 5 years, or this is what I want to do, but I do have an overall hope that when my brother passed, the overall change that I experienced led me to starting a nonprofit, not something I would have ever done on my own accord. So I do feel like that was kind of the universe's push to have me live my mission. So in a generic scheme, it would just be to really learn more about nonprofits, learn more about fundraising, keep the momentum there going, so that if I could even help save one life, one other baby from drowning, that would be ideal. And how that's done, and how that happens, I'm open to the interpretation the universe gives me day by day,